Begin the Daf, Mesech assuming that Chafei, begin 10 lines down at the top of the Yommi, so we continue the discussion on the previous Daf, which we had this machlekes regarding the Mephisim. We're talking about the lotteries in our Mishnah, regarding that they used to do it for Trumas Adeshin. That was the first of the 4 lotteries. Our next Mishnah is going to continue with the second lottery, and we had this machlekes regarding Bama Mephisim, with what type of garments did they do the lottery? Was it with Big Day Kodesh, or was it with Big Day Chayil? On that theme, our Gemara continues bringing proofs regarding which one it was. Joining us for today's daf. So we're going to discuss in today's daf, like we said, the next Mishnah is going to talk about the second pious. Our Mishnah had spoken about the first one regarding Trumas Hadesh, and the second one says who had the privilege of bringing the various parts of the Korban Tamid. We get into a whole discussion regarding what is the order of the various parts of the Korban Tamid that were brought upon the Mizbeach, and what order did they bring from the base of Shechita, where they slaughtered it, to where they brought it onto the ram to the Mizbeach. Some of the key terms of concept in today's daf are lishkas hagazis, which is the chamber of hewn stone, or actually from the terminology of like pruning, where that's where the Sanhedrin, that's where the Bezdin was there to prune out which kohen was fit to do that body, which one wasn't. Chavita Kohen Gadol is every single day. The Kohen Gadol used to bring the sarin of flour offering, which was on a machbas, that's what's called chavite, and it was put into 12 rolls, and 6 were brought in the morning, and 6 were brought in the evening. Kabbalah Saddam is the avodah, one of the 4 avodas that's done by a carbon, the shechita, this Kabbalah, which is going to be discussed in today's daf regarding receiving the blood, this halacha, transporting, and the zrika. So, Amar Rav Sheshes, he says, Mina Minila, he says, where do I know this? And we were discussing regarding he holds that Mephisim HaKodesh, he holds that they used to wear the Big Day Kodesh when they did the lottery. He says, I'll prove it to you the time like learn the Brisa. Because Lishkas Hagazas, the chamber of the hewn stone, that's where they used to go ahead and do the lottery. It was like this big, large building that was on top of an upper story. So it was a high ceiling. That's where Payis b'Mizracha. So they used to do the lottery on the eastern part of this chamber. So that's why you can see the picture over here. This is if you're walking in the Mizrach, and it's on your right side, on the like the midpoint. So that's coming this way. It's like a basilki v'dayla, and so it was split into 2. And the eastern part, that's where they would the ones who were doing the lottery, they would gather on the eastern part, and Vizakan, the elder of the Bezdin, who was instructing them how to go ahead and do the pious, he was Yeshiva Narabah. He was sitting on the western part. The Kanamu Kafan and the Kanamu were, like we said, circling. And they were standing like a brooch, like a necklace, like a circle. And then the guy in charge would come. When he would take the hat off one of them. And everyone would know that from him is who was starting this lottery from, which again we explained in the beginning of the parak, how they used to do it, that they would pick a number and then they would just continue going until it landed on the person who that magic number landed out on. Now, says Rav Sheshes, I'll prove to you that they were Mephisim HaKodesh. They were wearing their big dekuna, everyone put on the big dekuna when they came for the lottery. Because the Isa Gedait doesn't big dechal everything to say that they're wearing their weekday clothing. Mitznefes bebig dechal me'ika. You said you take off the mitznefes, which Tais has a whole discussion. I thought mitznefes is the term of the Kohen Gadol, and mikbois was that of the Kohen Head. Tais says lashon Torah l'chud, lashon chacham l'chud. It's not difficult. It really means the hat that the Kohen Head used to wear. But if he's wearing his weekday clothing, it doesn't have a mitznefes. Obviously, they're wearing the big kodesh when they did the lottery. The Gemara says no, it's not a raya. Yes. You could have a mitznefes b'big dechal. Because the Tanya Rabbi Yehuda, v'yitem Rabbi Shmuel by Yehuda, that later on in the 3rd paragraph on Mahema Beis, that the mothers of the Kahanim would make for their sons, for their own special big dekuna, like it was like big dekuna, to show the glory of their wealth and the beauty of their craft and how much they loved mitzvahs. And as the teaching is, Kohen shas la Yoma kasainis, that the Kohen has his mother make for him a kasainis. See, you don't outgrow the mommy crocheting something especially for you for the her tzadikal. Other baba just yachid, they could do an avodah of an individual avodah. I mean to say it's not a raya. This that he has to do on his own, that's not an avodah sibur. He could use the clothing that his mother made for him. So therefore could be as mitznefes, even as a weekday clothing, not big day kahuna per se. And therefore, it's not a raya to Rav Sheshes. Now, however, the Gemara does make a following diuk. Amar Abaye says, Shema Mina, we could infer from this brayse that we just brought in. We discussed Lishkas Hagazes just as Rav Shloimy should bring the raya, but he says once we brought in, you could learn a few halachas. First of all, the Lishkas Hagazes, that this chamber of Yun stone, must be that half of it was in the Azara by Kodesh, and half of it Bachal was out of the Azara on the Temple Mount. And Bishmamin, the second thing you could infer is that Shnei Pesachim Hayula must have had two entrances. Echad Pesach B'Kodesh, one that opened up into the Azara, Echad Pesach B'Chol, the one that opened up into the unconsecrated part of the mount. And as Abai says, I'll prove it to you. These Sakadat of Kul B'Kodesh, if you think to say that all of it was B'Kodesh was in the holy area, well then Zaken Yeshe B'Manava? How can you tell me that the elder, the Talmud Chochem, the one who was paskening for them, telling them how to do the lottery, he was sitting in the western part of this lishka? How could he be sitting if it was all B'Kodesh, all Nazara? But the master says, Ein Yeshiva B'Azara, you're not allowed to sit in the Azara like it says in the pasuk in the Dvarim, Lamrit L'Shoris HaMishal, you have to stand and to serve. The only ones allowed to sit are the kings of the Davidic dynasty, where we find that they sat like it says in the pasuk in Shmuel Beis, but you see that he sat in front of Hashem, but everyone else is not allowed to sit there. So obviously that there was a part of it, B'Choil, at least in the western part, that you could go ahead and have this zaken sitting there. And also the other way around too. Now if you're going to say, okay, it must have been the chamber Yunus was all B'Choil. But then Payis B'Mazracha, how they were doing the lottery in the eastern part of the chamber, but we need, as we said in the previous daf, as the pasuk says, in the house of God we go with excitement. Obviously, that we said that the lottery, which we said is supposed to make berogish, it has to be beveis elikim. And if you're going to be b'chol, so it's not beveis elikim. Which Taisus wonders. He says, if you need payas by kodesh, then why didn't they do the payas in the azar itself, which is even more kodesh than the lishkas hagazes, even if that's in the azar in the kodesh, but when you make it azar itself. So Taisus has two interesting pshatim. He says, the Bentham says, since you're taking off the hat of one of them, it's disgraceful to stand there without a hat in the Azara. Or it brings from Rabbi Yitzchak bar Baruch that says since they stood like a brooch, like a necklace, like a semicircle, if they would do the pais in the Azara, one of their backs would be to the Heichel. And it's disgraceful, and many have this hakpadah not to stand and darshan right in front. You can have your back to the Heichel, so therefore that's why they didn't enclose area, so even though it's by Kodesh, but it wasn't in front of the Heichel itself. But one thing is, the Shema Minah, what we can prove from this is Chetz B'Kodesh B'Chetz B'Chol. Must have been that half it was B'Kodesh and half it B'Chol. Because, like we said, you have to have the Zaken sitting, must have been B'Chol. They were doing the Payas, must have been the Beis Lakim. Now, says the Gemara, to prove the other point, maybe you're going to think to say Pesach Echad Yeshua that only had one entrance, and it opened up into the Azara. How could you have Zaken Yeshiv B'Merava? Even if that half is built in the part of the Temple Mount that, let's say, is off of the Azara, it's not in the Azara, and that's the part that's Banuya B'Chayil, but if it has only one entrance opening up into the west, into the Kodesh, how could you have the Zaken Yeshiv B'Merava? But now we're learning the Mishnah says this Ma'aser Sheni that says, Halashachas HaBanuya B'Chayil. If you have a chamber that's built on the unconsecrated part of the Temple Mount, but the entryway is into the Azara, that means to say that internal space of that lishka, it goes based on what it opens up into. And therefore it's going to have actually a sanctified status. And so therefore it must have been that there was an opening into the chayil. Now, if you think to say that the opening was to the unconsecrated part, so how could you go ahead and then do the ladder in the east? But within that same Mishnah, it says, if even it was built in the Azara, but the opening, the entryway is to the unconsecrated part, that means that the internal space of that room is actually going to be chayil. Rather, we have to prove Shnei Pesachim Hayla. Must have been there was two entrances. One opened up into the Azara, which that was the one b'Mizracha, which is Kodesh, which is the entryway must open over here. One that's opened up into the rest of the Harabayis, and that's the one on the west, and that's why the Zaken could be Yeshiv, b'Marava, and that's how they can do b'Payis, b'Mizracha, because this is Kodesh, this is Chol, and not only that this is actually open into Kodesh, and this is open into Chol, because you go based on the opening to qualify the internal space of the area.
Maybe they have made it the other way around.
What?
Why wouldn't they have made the Kodesh on the...
Oh, and this way and that way. Why, yeah. Why was it made like that? Yeah.
Because that's closer to the... Was it in the...
It would sound like that this would be the half Kodesh and this would be that, and that is what it is. That's really what it means. I don't know if this picture is accurate in the this is, in other words, this is Chetzi B'Kodesh and this is Chetzi B'Chol. But this part is going to be Kodesh because it has the Pesuach L'Kodesh. And this one's going to be Chol because Pesuach L'Chol.
Yeah, but the picture is accurate.
Right.
It says the Zaken Yoshev B'Marava. So...
Right, so he was sitting, even over here, even if he's sitting over here, this, again, I don't know how they divided it, if they had some type of like a partition, how you divide them, but since this is Pesuach L'Chol, so this is going to be Chol. Because even if you build it B'Kodesh, it's going to be, if it's B'Sbech. Yes, exactly, to know exactly where he stood and exactly the angle, yes, good question. So now we go to the next mission, to continue the theme of the opening mission of our parak. We spoke about Berishayna. We said the first thing they used to do by Trumas Hadeshin, they would do it without a lottery. Then they decided, hey, we got to do a lottery. It's not working. That was the first of 4 lotteries they would do that day. Says the Mishnah, Hapai Sasheni, what was the second lottery of the day? Second lottery was, okay, Mishaychid, who's going to slaughter the carbon, the daily sacrifice. Mizarid, who's going to spray the blood. Mimadash Mizbech, who's going to clean out the ashes of the inner mizbech, which they used to have from the kataras that they burnt every single day. Mimadash Mizbech, who's going to go ahead and clean out the menorah. And then that's the first 4. Then the next were Umimale Ivarm Lekevish. Who's going to go ahead and bring the limbs of the carbon to the ramp, which that was many different kahanim. You have Harosh B'Haregel, you have the head and the right hind leg. That was with one kohen. Then you have the Shtei Yadayim. Then you have the 2 forelegs, which is the second kohen. You have Ha'ukitz, which that's the tail. The Haregel and the left hind leg. That's with a third kohen. You have B'Chaza. You have the breast, which that's the fatty part that sees the ground, and you cut it off from either side without taking out the tops of the ribs. And that's with together the Hagera, together with the neck, which that's attached with the trachea and the liver and the heart. So the Chaz and the Gera, that's with a 4th kohen. And you have the Famis. You have the 2 flanks, that's with the 5th kohen. You have then the Hakravayim. Then you have the intestines, that's taken with a 6th kohen. And you have Asilis, the flour, which is the Sisarin, which is for the mincha of that was in the Nesachim of the Karban Tamid, that was with a 7th kohen. You have a Chavitin, you have that half of the Saran of the Kohen Gadol that was brought with the Karban Tamid every single day. Like it says, Machtzisa B'Avoika, Machtzisa B'Ev, half was in the morning, half was in the Tamid Shel Ben Abayim. And like it says, Halmachabas B'Shematasa, that's what it's called Chavitin, that was with an 8th kohen. And B'Hayayin, and then the wine, which is the 3 lugin of that was for the wine libations, for the Karban Tamid, that was with a 9th kohen. So it comes out in totality, with Shleish Asik HaMzachal, you had 13 kahanim that merited in this second lottery of the day. Because there's 13 kahanim that we mentioned, we had these 9 that were doing for the carbon, they had the 6 for the carbon of the different parts of the animal. You had the 4 of the different other elements, and you had those which of these 4 of the of that were who did the shchita, who did the zrika, and the 2 cleanings. So that was the 4 plus the 9 plus the 6 is going to, plus the plus the 4. That's going to make for a total of 13. So those are the 13 kahanim that merited here by the second lottery. Now, he disagrees regarding the order that you said, regarding because it was said in the order when we mentioned this about what the different parts that were being transported to the Mizbeach. He disagrees, says, derech hiluchay. The way an animal walks when it's alive, that's how you carve, that's how it was brought, the Karban Tamid, to the Mizbeach. I think what he's going to explain, not like the order that the Tanna Kama says. Tanna Kama says, first Harish Regel, and then the Shtei Yadayim, and then the Ukitz. It's a very different order. He says, no, the order of how an animal walks, that's the order how they would transport it to the Mizbeach. Now, the following question: when they used to do this lottery, did they do it for one avodah? For example, let's say they had one lottery. Who's going to shech? And whoever wins that lottery to shech, so then you don't do 12 other lotteries. Rather, the kahanim that are around him on the right, they follow like a domino effect after him, like the order of our Mishnah. The second one does the drika, the third one cleans up the mizbech b'nimi, the fourth one does the menayra, and then the next one, and that's the order. So maybe no, every single avodah they did a separate lottery for, and that they would stick out their fingers again, and then whoever would win, and do it again and again and again and again, and they did all the 13 lotteries. So was the one and then the 12 after, or was it 13 separate lotteries? So it's being a raya from previous Mishnah. We said that there was 4 lotteries over there every single day. Now, if you think to say for every single avodah they would do a separate lottery as a two-hab. Wasn't just 4 lotteries a day. I mean, even in the, so to speak, second lottery, there was 13 lotteries. So I guess it's just 4. Obviously, that you only did one, who's going to shech, and then all the 12 around them, they won. So Manach Mitzvah says, no, it's not a raya. Hachikam, this is what the Mishnah means to say. 4 times a day, they come in to do the lotteries. But every single lottery had many different lotteries that were done. So it's not a raya. So the Gemara continues some days and says, okay, Tashma, it's being a raya from the following brisa. He says, when it came time for the third lottery, when they would do who's going to bring the guitars for the day, as the Mishnah teaches, Chadash l'guitars. A later Mishnah is going to say that on the next Daf, that only new people could come and take the lottery for the guitars. You couldn't get the guitars the second time. Now, the guitars needed 2 kahanim. One who's going to bring the guitars to the heichal to burn it, and another one who should shovel out some coals from the mizbech hachitzin and bring it into the heichal. And then he would put the coals on the mizbech pnimi to then burn the keteris on top of those coals, as the Gemara learns out later on from Heim and Af from Sukkim, where the coals of the in mizbech had to be taken from the mizbech hachitzin every single day. And that Rebbe is coming to tell us that they wouldn't make a special lottery who's going to get the opportunity to bring in the coals. Ella rather kohen shezacha b'keteris, the kohen that he wins the right of bringing the keteris. He would tell the guy who's next to him on the right, Zocha imi b'mavta, merit with me to bring the pan. So obviously we see that you didn't do a lottery for every single avodah. There was the one on the right of you that he came along. So seemingly that's the raya that they only did one lottery. Like you see by the third lottery, you didn't make a separate one for the mafta. Here also, you didn't make a separate one for all these people. It's whoever was on the right side, they would do it with him. Says Gemara, no, shani mafta ketar, it's not true. It's very different in the case of the third lottery of the pan of the coals with the ketairis, because the chad avoidi, that's one avoid, and it's secondary. The coals are secondary. It's together. It's one avoid of bring ketairis. So although you need 2 people, but it's the main guy, and he'll have his sidekick with him. But that's not a raya regarding all the other avoiders, which they're independent avoiders. Maybe you do a separate lottery for them. Now, those who say that the raya was trying to bring the opposite. That the Gemara's raya was, dafka machta ketairis. By the third lottery, we find that the pan and the ketairis, that's where the chanavoidi, one avoida, that's why it says that the guy next to him came along with him. But it would sound like all the other avoiders, which are independent, actually would need its own lottery. So the raya is fakir that you see, like we just answered, like you see that you need to have a separate lottery. Which the Gemara says, no, it's not true. Truth is that even by the second lottery, which let's say by the Shchit and Zrika and all that, really it was only one lottery and it was all the guys around him to the right. So why do we only say it by the Machta Victors? Because Machta is Sukhali. Then we had to tell you, Fakir, because this there I would have thought to say to the contrary. I would have thought that although it's always usually only one, there you do more than one. Why? Since Keteris, that avoid is not such a common avoid. It's only 2 times in a day. Because you can't donate Keteris. Other karbanas, there were hundreds, thousands of karbanas. There's always opportunity to do these avodas of Shchita and Zrika, and you could do Haktar, it's not such a big deal. But Keteris only twice a day, and that's it. Not only that, it makes the ones who do the Keteris wealthy, as the Gemara tells us later on the next Daf. So therefore, I would have thought to say very limited opportunities. Niskin lo pais b'fnei asma. Make a separate lottery. Make a separate, you give me a prize and split it up. You don't give the kids everything in one shot. Make more opportunities to giving out things, and make a separate lottery for the one who wins the pen. I won the pen. So therefore, I would have thought to say it should be separate. Kamash Malon, that's I said that no, that even over there it's going to be with one, but it's not a raya. It could be that we always do it with one lottery and we don't do more. But the Gemara says Tashma. The Gemara ultimately brings a raya. The Tanya Brayso, it says clearly lo l'chal avodah v'avodah mefaisim. No, we don't do a separate lottery for every single avodah. Now the kohen shezacham b'tamid, Rabbi Kohen who merits to go and shech the carbon tamid. Shnayim asa achva kahanim nimshachim. His 12 fellow brother kahanim, they get drawn after him. Which it's the next ones to the right of him. Shema Minah, that obviously that it's not a separate one, and there's only one lottery, and then you go and you pick everybody else on his right. Now we said in the Mishnah, Paisa Sheni B'chulu. We said, okay, what are those in the 12 lotteries? So we said Shchita, Zrikim, we went through the whole thing as we have here in this picture. Now the problem is, he boiled the following question: Mi Makabel, who receives the blood of the carbon tamid? Because in the Mishnah we didn't mention a claim for the Kabbalah. So obviously one of these other kahanim, that they're the only members who are doing the carbon tamid, obviously they're one of them that's doing the Kabbalah. Who's the one that's doing the Kabbalah? We said Shchita, Zrikim, we didn't mention anything about Kabbalah. Now we know Kabbalah, Hilacha, we have to, someone has to receive the blood and transport the blood. Who does it? So the Gemara explains the question. Do we say Sheikh and Makabel? Do we say the one who shech that he's going to receive the blood? And the reason is because if you say that Zarik Makabel, the one who sprays the blood, he receives it. Well, Agav Chavivusa, the problem is because since it's so dear to him to throw the blood, which is avoid on his back, maybe he's not going to receive all the blood because he's going to be in his haste. He's like, I got this, I'm going to throw this blood, and he's running away before, wait, the blood didn't finish. Then the problem is the Gemara tells later in the Chesam Enough that you have to accept all the dam. Like it says in the Pasuk, Yikuves kol dam apar yishtafech. So therefore maybe that's why we would say that it has to be the sheikhet that's going to be makabel, because the zarik is not going to wait; he's going to quickly run off. Maybe no, maybe zarik makabel, maybe the one who sprays the blood he should receive it, because the iyam is sheikhet makabel. If you say the one who shechs that he's receiving the blood, zimmin the shachet zar. What I mean? Sometimes it's going to happen that a non-kohen is going to shech the carbon tamid because shchit is kasha bazar and Kabbalah is pasul with a zar, like it says in the pasuk in the beginning of the Yikra, shachet has been al-bakar, and then it says the kriba kahan v'sadam, which tells us that from Kabbalah and onward of the mitzvah kuna, but the shchita is valid with a non-kohen. So maybe we shouldn't let the sheikhet do the Kabbalah because then the sheikhet doesn't have to be non-kohen. It could be a kohen, but a non-kohen could do the shchita. He might decide to do the shchita on the tamid, and then he's going to do the Kabbalah. Well, that's possible. So maybe we should never let the sheikhet do. Maybe Taka was always the zarik who did it. So who did the Kabbalah and the halacha? Was it the zarik or was it the sheikhet? So the Gemara says Tashma Raya in the following brayso. Ben Katin, who was a kohen gadol, also Yud Beis Dad. He made 12 spouts so that they should pour out water from the kir for the kir, which it used to have only one big spout, and he made upgrade. They made 12 new spouts. So that his fellow 12 kahanim who are going to do the carbon tamid, everybody, let's go together. We could all do it in one shot. We don't have to wait on this long line. We don't like waiting on lines, right? We could all do it together at the same time. Spouts coming out, hopefully had good pressure. And it was at the same time all him and his fellow 12 kahanim doing it at the same time. Now, says the Gemara. If you would entertain to say that sheikhet mekabel, that the one who's shechting is receiving the blood, then tleiser hava. It should have been 13 spouts because you have 13 avodas we said in the Mishnah regarding the avodah of the lottery of the carbon tamid. Now, the one who does the shchita doesn't need kiddush reglaim, even if he's a kohen. Because since it's an avodah that's kasha bazar, so it's not an avodah, so to speak, that needs kiddush reglaim, because even if he's quote unquote a zar, like by not doing kiddush reglaim, it's also okay. Now, if you say that the sheikh is going to do the Kabbalah, comes out that he has to do kiddush reglaim because of the Kabbalah. So Elalah Shema Minah Zarik Makabel. Shema Minah says obviously it has to be the one who does the zrikas did during the Kabbalah, because then he wouldn't have made enough spouts. He was one spout short, because 12 makes sense. If only 12, there's 13 people. What's 12? Oh yeah, because one of the 13 is the sheikh. Sheikh doesn't have to do kiddush reglaim. Yeah, but he's doing also Kabbalah. So he has to do kiddush reglaim for that. Obviously, then no, the Zayrik, who's already one of the 12, he's doing the Kabbalah. And we don't have to add on a 13th spout for the one who's doing the Kabbalah. So obviously, it's the Zayrik who does the Kabbalah. He's doing the Kabbalah and the Zayrik, right? And only Rav Acha read the Rav She says, he says, and we also learn like this. The Mishnah says, the Mishnah says, Shachet HaSheichet. The one who would slaughter, the Kibbal HaMakabel, and the one who would receive it would receive it. Uval loy lizrik, and he would come to spray. Obviously, it's him, loy, the one who did the Kabbalah, would do the zrika. Okay. The Gemara, the Mishnah continued that we said that. So the Tanakama, he listed the order in which the various parts were brought to the ramp. As we'll see, that was in the order of the size, and that's how it's brought. Now, on that, Amar ben Azai Rabbi Kiva v'chulu. Ben Azai, in the Mishnah, said about Rabbi Kiva, that no, it's actually derech hiluchay. I'm talking about Melinda Bryson that elaborates and explains in specific that opinion, and actually many different opinions, actually, machlekes regarding what was the order, how they would transport the limbs to the Mizbeach. So talking about Melinda Bryson, derech hiluchay. This that Ben Azai disagreed with the Tanakama, and he said that it wasn't brought in the way the Tanakama said, but it was rather brought in how an animal walks when it's alive. That's the order of how it's brought. How is that? So you have first Haroshai. You have the Rosh, the head, which is towards the front. That's whatever's more in the front comes first, because we're talking about the order how it walks. Now the Harego, together with the head would come the right hind leg, which according to everyone that would come first, the Rosh and the Regel, as the Gemara is going to show enough from a pasuk. But after that, it was in the order of the animal. You have a chaza v'agir, you have the breast and the neck, which is there in the front. You have a shtei yadayim, you have two forelegs, which again is in the front. Going further back, is shtei defanis, the two flanks. Then the uketz v'regel. Then you have the tail and the back leg. So that's in the order of how an animal walks. A third opinion, Rabbi Shloimy says no. Derech havsheita hayikar. The way you skin an animal, which is you skin the animal from the hind leg, you hang it from the leg, and you skin from the bottom to the front, from the legs to the head. That's how hayikar. That's how it was brought to the mizbeach. Says the Brisa, what's the order of how it's skinned? So Haresh Regel, although that's not the order of how it's skinned, as we're going to explain shortly, everyone agrees that was always the first thing brought. The head and the right hind leg, fine. But everything else is in the order. Ha'oketz v'regel first the tail and the left hind leg, Ushtei Tfanis and the two flanks, Ushtei Yadayim, the two forelegs, and Hachaz v'ager, and the breast and the neck. So that's in the order of the opposite way of how it's skinned. Fourth opinion, Kivan, he says, no, definitely tuchi hayikar. The way how you dismember the animal after it's skinned, limb by limb, that's how it's sacrificed. Oh, ketza definitely tuchi. What's the order of how it's dismembered? Because what they used to do is they would chop off, they would break off, they would cut off limbs of the carbon tamid, and they would give it to the next guy coming next guy, and they would give it to whoever got the schus. And they would all stand there until they all got it, and then they go and transport and bring it to the ram, one after the other. So the machlekes tanoim we're having over here is how did they transport it? That one said it was derech hiluchai, one said it was derech havsheita, one says it's derech nituchai. So that says the brayse ketza derech nituchai. What's the order of how it's dismembered? So haresh v'regel. First was the head and the right hind leg. Then the shtei yadayim, then the two. You could see the kain doing this, like you see him cutting off their limbs as the kain are waiting their turn, and then he breaks off the two forelegs. Then the chazal v'ger, then he cuts off the breast and the neck. Then the shtei, and he's carving away here piece by piece as he's giving it off to the galim. Ushtei defanis and the two flanks. And then ha'uketz v'regel, the last two were the tail and the left hind leg. A fifth interpretation, he says no, derech iluya ha'ikar. He says that the best parts, the choicest meat, that was the one that was first, and that was the order from choicest to the least choice. Choices
of who?
Of the meat, of the carbon. The choices, like there's expensive, So what's that order? So first on Rosh V'Regel, again that was always first, the head and the right hind leg. Then you have a chazav, you have the breast, you have the gergula, you have the neck. Then the shtei adfanis, the flanks, right, flanken. Then ha'uketz v'regel, then the tail and the left hind leg. Shtei yadayim, then the tzvay fitzel, the two forelegs. That was the last part. The problem the Gemara has is that but the pasuk in Yecheskel that seems to indicate a different order of what's choice meat, because it says in the pasuk kol netach toiv, all good cuts, yarech v'kasif. It mentioned first the thigh and then the shoulder meat. So obviously that the yerech, which is like the regel, the left hind leg, is better than the shoulder, meaning than even the defanis. So why are you saying first come the flanken and then comes the regel? Isn't yarech, which is what the regel is, before the kasef, before the shoulder meat, which is by the flanken? Says the Gemara, that pasuk is bekhusha, by lean meat. By lean meat, then the yarech is better because it's stronger. because it's lean. But by fatty meat, then actually no, it's the flanken that's better. We all know the chulent has git the flanken, this git the flanken. Git the flanken is under the chulent. You know what I'm saying? He says, but if it's not, then there's you know. So that's it says. Depends on if it's lean meat or if it's a fatty meat. Now, one more point says the Gemara. Amar Rav, he says, Bein Tana Didan. He says the Tana of our Mishnah, who didn't say like any one of these four in the order of how it's transported in this brisa, but Rabbi Yisi, who was quoting in this brisa, they both agree that we go based on what was the choice cut of the meat. So what's the machlekes? Why do they say different orders? Because Mar, the Tana of our Mishnah, Azal Basra Ivar de Bisra. When he says the choice is cut, he meant what was the biggest cuts of the meat. So that was the two forelegs, then the tail and the left hind leg, and then the chaz and the gera, because they weren't the biggest. The chaz is not so big, the breast meat is not so big, the gera is not so big, and the two flanken was also, I guess, not so big, and whatever. It went in that order. But Amar Azal, but Rabbi Yisi went after Basa Shimna de Bisra. He went after when he says which is the choicest cuts, what was the fattier, the more better tasting quality? That's their machlekes, so they both will go in Basi Lui. The question is exactly which Lui are you talking about? But one thing the Gemara says is, my time as Salka Regel, Mahadi Resha. According to everyone, we said, Harosh Varegel. Why is the head come with the left hind leg, with the right hind leg? Says the Gemara, because the head has a lot of bones. So Kriva Regel Badei. So it's like a shvacha shtickle fleish. So together with that, they would sacrifice it together with the right hind leg, which is the gezinta shtickle fleish. So the Gemara says, okay, but the kulam is, but we still, according to every opinion, Rosh Karbaration, even if you went in the order of how it's skinned or how it's cut, whatever it was, you always get the head first. Minola, what do we know that the Rosh should be first? So it's going to tell me, learn the Brisa. How do you know that the head with the fats that's from the intestines, that they were the first things that was always sacrificed before all the other limbs? It says a pasuk in the Yikra. It says in that pasuk that they would cut up to its pieces, and it says and esroshli ves pidre, its head and its fats, and then it says va'arach, and then the kohen would organize it on the firewood that's on the fire, that's on the mizbech, and then they would burn it. So one thing you see is that first is rosh and pidre, and then va'arach, and then you see that you organize all the other limbs. But says the Gemara, a related question. The idach peder achrina. There's another pasuk that says es nasachem es reish vesapader. That other pader is getin tabel chavav menav. That other pasuk lamai asa. What's the point of mentioning peder separately? It's peder, the fat, was also part of all the other nesachim, all the other cuts of the animal. In other words, like Rashi explains, I understand why you have to repeat again about the reish, because the Gemara in Shkitas Chulin from Zayin Manal says that you need it. Because since the pasuk says that the kohen would skin the animal and then organize the limbs, I would only know what's going to be organized on the mizbeach, only the cuts of meat that are skinned. How do I know to include the head, which was already chopped off by the shchita and was not part of the skinning process? That's what I have to say esarosh. But the fats are part of the animal, which is in the intestines, which was skinned. So why do you have to mention a separate pasuk to say that you're also going to put on the pedam, the fats? Oh, says the Gemara, like telling you that's necessarily like we learned in the Brisa. How would they do this? How would they bring the fats with the head before all the other Ivarim? That's what we're coming to tell you, that you had Esaroish, meaning that it said that you have Esroish Ve'espidrai, is that you bring the fats on the area of where the animal is slaughtered, and then you brought it up. And that's the dignified way for Hashem, because where you shechted, it's all dirtied with blood from the head. So you made it look beautiful, and you covered it over with this fat, as the picture illustrates. That then that's what the chiddush of Espad is coming to tell you, that you went and you covered it over that of the head. That's why you need that other pasuk over there. Something to discuss in today's Daf Yomi, Daf Chafei, was Rav Sheshes. We continued the conversation from the previous Daf. That his opinion was mafisim b'kodesh, that they would wear their big day kahuna when they did the lottery. And what was his raya? Because the one in charge came and took the hat off one of them, and wait a second, mitznefes? What do you mean? Who has if you're wearing weighted clothing, who's wearing mitznefes? Obviously, that they wore their big day kodesh. That's what the one knows, it's not a raya. Because a kohen that his mother made for him special clothing, he could do avodas yachid, and it's his own private clothing. Maybe that kohen was wearing their own private clothing, having its nefesh, and therefore it's not a riot. We said that the lishkas hagazes, 2 points. One is that it was chetzi b'kodesh v'chetzi b'chol, and moreover that it had 2 openings. One opened up b'kodesh, one opened up b'chol, and that's why the ones who were doing the lottery were b'mizracha, because that has to be b'veis elikim, and that was b'veis elikim, because that opened up into the entryway opened up into the Azar. The Zaken Yeshe b'manava, he was sitting. Well, how is he sitting? Obviously, because it's Pesuach L'chayil, so therefore that Lishkas HaGazas was half and half Kodesh, half Chol, therefore you could have him sitting, because that was open up to the Chayil, and you could have them doing the pious, which has to be the Beis Elikim. Then we said, the next Mishnah going on to the second lottery, we said, okay, who shechts, who does the Zrika, who cleans out the Mizbeach, who cleans out the Menorah, plus 9 of who would bring the limbs and all the other stuff, silas and the yain and whatnot, that was plus 9. That would be 13 Kahanim who won the lottery of the second pious. Kiva disagreed regarding the order of the Ivarm. He said that the way they would transport the Ivarm would be derech hilucha, the way the animal walks when it's still alive. Now the Gemara pointed out it's not for every avodah that they did a separate lottery. There was one kohen, and that those on his right would be nimshach another 12. Now, regarding Machta Keteris, we tried to make a raya. Either way, we said, is not a raya, because on the one hand, it's one avodah, so of course you wouldn't make a separate lottery for the one that does the pan. Or on the other hand, no, you could say that that's where you would have thought to say that maybe it shouldn't be one because it's not common and it makes the person wealthy, but be that I mean, it's not a raya either way over there, that it was done together as one. Now, we also pointed out that the one who did the Zrika, he was the one that received the dam, as we saw from Ben Katan, that he made only 12 spouts, now 13. And if it was the one who did the Shechita, the Kabbalah, obviously you would have to have another spout. We had a machlekes regarding how you transport the limbs to the ramp. Is it the way the animal walks when it's alive? Is it the way the animal is skinned? Is it the way the animal is dismembered? Is it the choice cuts of meat, which we said that Rabbi is going regarding how fatty it is? Or like the Tan of our Mishnah, who said that, yes, it's the choicest cuts, but it's also the how big are the cuts of meat. That was what was the order. And we said that according to everyone, the regal was always together with the head, because the head has a lot of bones, and therefore you want to give a good piece of meat with the head, which is the regal. And also we said that the head was brought first with the bedam aleho, which we have a pasuk like that, as Roishav as Pidrei, and moreover the pedam come with that. And we have another pasuk to say as Roishav as Pidrei, to tell you that the Roish can be sacrificed even though it's not B'chla Hafshata, and that the Pidrei was actually aleha, was on top of it, so that it's there of Kavod Shamala. Thank you to anytime.